So today we have a little bit of a different type of video from the Crazy Herb channel. This isn't what I normally do, and I hope you'll all bear with me. I wanted to talk about something different, something unique, and a Nintendo expert, the host of The Game is Fun podcast, Matt Borjes, has elected and brought up this topic himself, actually. This was his idea, it's a brilliant idea, I might add, to talk about 3 gems of the Nintendo lineup that really are kind of underrated, and their star, who always falls in the background compared to his older, redder, shorter brother. That's right, we're going to talk about Luigi's Mansion, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, and Luigi's Mansion 3, starring yours truly, Luigi. Matt, would you like to say hi?
Hey, how you doing there, buddy? Just happy to be here. I'm just hanging. Having a good time. Yeah, we're ready to talk about some Luigi with you, Herb. I do have to add, it is the former host of TGIF. That show is very much dead at the moment. But anyways, let's talk about the green fella, Herb. I approached you with this because I've been digesting the work of, formerly Kotaku, now Action Buttons, Tim Rogers for, the past month. Just every bit of his writing, his videos. And something interesting that he said in one of his pieces was, it was this idea that a good game Nintendo made before they became worried about letting people down. And I don't know if it was linked to the past, but it might have been. And I think Luigi's Mansion is a perfect encapsulation of that idea. I think it's a perfect encapsulation of that idea. It is just the kind of game where you have to be fully unleashed to make it. And I think it's one of the last examples we've seen of a very select, few Nintendo games that really embrace that idea of not caring if you let anyone down. I think that's very rad.
No, I think that's a really great way to kind of kick off discussion on this game. Luigi's Mansion is not my most kind of familiar Nintendo franchise. All right, I'm more of a Mario, Zelda, very surface level. Obviously, I've played almost every, not obviously, but I played almost every Mario game. So I'm surface level in the sense that those are the biggest brands, but I'm not surface level in my understanding of them. But Luigi's Mansion is one that I kind of fell in love with when I played Luigi's Mansion on the Switch, Luigi's Mansion 3 that is, being a pretty popular game on the Switch and arguably its best visually presented game. I mean, I actually kind of stand by that. When you brought this up, it made me want to just really dig into the original couple of games, and specifically Luigi's Mansion for the GameCube, because there's a lot of history there that I didn't really know beforehand. Specifically that this game, one, was a launch game for the GameCube, and it was the launch game for the GameCube. They didn't really have anything else going with it. In terms of size, what was it? Mario Sunshine wasn't out yet. I believe the Zelda game was not Ocarina of Time. What was the other one? Yeah, Ocarina of Time.
Majora's Mask.
Yeah, but which one was first? It is Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina of Time, and then Majora's Mask came out a year later?
Yeah, so
2 years
Ocarina
later?
of Time wasn't out yet. And GameCube didn't really have that kind of killer app launching with it. Really, what they did is they took, I believe it was Miyamoto and a couple other high-level Nintendo people took what started as a tech demo for the GameCube and made it into a full video game where Luigi's the protagonist. This is actually the second title where Luigi's the protagonist in any Mario game. The first one...
Yeah, I think it's either Mario's Missing? Oh, no, because the other one's Mario's Time Machine.
Mario's Missing. I remember when I was looking it up. I should have wrote that down. But anyways, the second game where he's a protagonist, this was the best-selling launch title for the GameCube. It reviewed fairly well. Not as well as I thought or expected, though. When I went back and looked at some of the reviews, I mean, it's a 78 on Metacritic, and apparently a lot of people liked it, but they felt it left you wanting. It was a little bit short, a little more contained, but it was still a pretty iconic title, and it introduced a couple of famous characters, EGAD and King Boo. But yeah, what is your kind of experience with the first game? As somebody who hasn't played it, from videos and from what people seem to say about it, is the atmosphere in it is unrivaled in either of the next 2 games.
Herb, let me tell you a tale right here. So of course, March 17th, 2000, little baby Matthew comes sliding out, crying into the universe, right? Next year, the GameCube files from the factory, it's wailing into the universe. September 14th, 2001, the nation was in a dark place. Luigi's Mansion comes out. Okay. I didn't play that game for, oh my god, 17 years? 1 second. So wait, let me think. I owned it at some point. I got it for $8 at GameStop in Westport, Connecticut. I traded it back in. I didn't play more than the first 5 minutes. And then I eventually played it when I was very sad in my freshman dorm around October time. I remember I was watching Fantastic Mr. Fox by Wes Anderson because I badly wanted it to be Thanksgiving break so I could go home. But instead, at night, I would play Luigi's Mansion on an emulator on my Dell XPS 15. And can I tell you something? It's a magical experience because it has those weird graphics that were just the beginning of that generation, you know, where you still had spiky shoes, you still had shadows that were just circles beneath feet. This is there's no like aliasing on any of these. These are round creatures. They are projecting shadows. They are obscuring light. And to be able to travel back to that time, it made me feel like warm and safe again. And I think this game is magical, not just because of the unique ghosts that are exclusive to this title. They're a little bit more detailed, not as uniform as the ones in the Luigi's Mansion games, but it almost felt like this game was like a snickerdoodle cookie. You took one bite into it and bam, you're home.
I like that.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I like that a lot. I also like that you mentioned that about the ghosts because I do think, from what I could tell, is there's a very like kind of a genuine artistic expression in the first game where it's a little more rough, a little more freshly born out of, say, Miyamoto and the others' heads, whereas they hadn't quite formalized it as Nintendo tends to do with some of their visuals and like imagery where they kind of land on something after a while and stick with it. They were still kind of experimenting, you know, seeing what they were capable of. And I do really respect that from the game. What do you think about Luigi being the protagonist of this series? Because I think, personally, Luigi hasn't really gotten his fair due even up to this point.
Well, there's a few things you got to consider right there. But you had the year of Luigi. When is that coming around again? When does the lunar cycle reset? When are we getting it's Luigi's moon again? But the other issue is how he's portrayed in this game, I think, is really cool. And how they make use of that with the actual controls. The fact that you have a whole button that's dedicated to calling out to your big brother to come help you, that's super cool. And I would never have thought about that before. I think you've seen so many different interpretations of Luigi over the years. Depending. So you had the one in the Mario Brothers Super Show that you see clips of online. Love that. Had the entire series on DVD as a kid. Then you got this modern Luigi. Is he a little bit of a daredevil? He's a fraidy cat. He's afraid of everything. What I do think is that Luigi's Mansion is like kind of like a fun, spooky alternative to the Mario franchise. Everyone loves fun, spooky things. You know, you get right into Halloween, that's what's going on. It's almost like, okay, you know how Disneyland has like the Haunted Mansion, right?
Yeah.
And then like for Christmas they'll do it over into like the Holiday Haunted Mansion.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is like a little do-over of the Mario franchise. It's not changing everything completely. It's the same-ish tone. You're getting the same bounciness. It's well animated. You're getting interesting environments. It's just like a little bit spookier themed, and I think that fits Luigi so interesting, and it gives him an angle that some of these characters do have, but others lack. So like Wario, he has the greedy capitalism angle. Luigi, he's the fraidy cat Ghostbuster angle. Princess Peach had a game at one point. I'm not sure if they really fleshed her out in a positive way, but it is an interesting, almost like corner on his character. And I think that's what this game franchise brings to Luigi.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that. And I'd also take it a step further and say it solidifies Luigi as his character. Whereas Mario, he's the plucky go-getter. He always goes and finishes the job and saves Peach. But Luigi was always kind of just his brother who's there. You know, he's the player 2 character. That's kind of, at least to me, that's what he always was. Until, like, I really played a Luigi's Mansion game and I was like, oh, wow, Luigi has a lot of personality, a lot of expressiveness, and a lot of just character and individuality that you don't see in any Mario game because, you know, he's player 2. And honestly, I would argue maybe it's because of the format of Luigi's Mansion, but I think he has more known personality now than Mario even does because Mario has to be the hero. So they don't really always make Mario do anything other than be the hero in his games. Whereas Luigi's kind of just like, yeah, he's a hero, but he's, like you said, he's the scaredy cat. He's kind of like afraid of everything, but he still has to go up against all these freaky ghosts and like horrifying monsters and stuff, and with his vacuum. It's very well put together in the sense that, and this is something Nintendo's very good at, is conveying expression through animation, whereas Luigi doesn't really talk that much. I mean, I don't even know if he says a single actual word. I always feel like it's just kind of like the classic grunts and stuff that Mario characters do. But I feel like I know a lot about him from these games, even though he didn't tell me anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, your comparison to Mario there, of course Mario is the amorphous avatar, right? So you gotta be able to jump into his bones, stretch his skin over yours, all the bumps and cracks right into him. You have to be able to become Mario. You have to absorb Mario. Mario is you. So he's not able to have that much of a distinction to himself if he's going to be that in his main games. But I think you made a great point with what they do with Luigi in the animation. It's just, it's so cool. And they do squash and stretch. And I really enjoy how the Ghost and Luigi are both portrayed in this game, because it's calling back to that thing that I said earlier, the Tim Rogers quote, where it feels like this is like going out on a limb. This is not something has been focus tested, is excited. It might be one of the last things I can think of in my mind, besides like a bunch of indie games that's like truly original. Like, this is cool. Who thought of this before?
Yeah.
Who's using vacuums as a weapon? Who's having a dedicated call out Big Brother button? No one. Who's putting Italians on screen?
Truly groundbreaking.
This is truly groundbreaking. This is a character study. This is Scorsese.
Yes, this is cinema.
And yeah, I mean, not to doubt the fact that it's also cinema, because Luigi's Mansion predicted the 3D fad. They wanted this whole game to be presented in 3D originally.
Yeah.
On the GameCube. They beat Cameron to it.
Dude.
What I'm trying to say is Luigi's Mansion, it should be on the IMDb top 100. Like, whenever the high schooler looks up, like, top 100 films I gotta see before I die, Luigi's Mansion up there. Interactive film? Okay, so what? Bandersnatch, Netflix, that's it. Boom, ship it. Am I right?
No, I second everything you just said there. I couldn't agree more. You did mention 3D, though, which I think is a pretty solid segue into the second Luigi's Mansion game. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon for the 3DS. Came out in 2013. I did not play this, but just a couple of small facts. It's developed by Next Level Games, who this is the first time Luigi's Mansion was developed by a specific studio outside of Nintendo. Like, Next Level Games is technically, I think, a Nintendo studio now, but they aren't, Nintendo proper. This one reviewed exceptionally well. 86 on Metacritic. The only thing I could find that people really didn't like was the checkpoint system, and it sold very well. 5 million plus sales. Oh, I should mention, the first game also got close to 5 million sales, so which is pretty good for the GameCube, but this is for the 3DS in 2013. I still feel like that's pretty decent, 5 million for a game series that hadn't been around in 12 years. So yeah, did you ever get a chance to play this game?
So I was another one where the 3DS was like right before I got my first job. Or, well, it was up until the time I was in middle school until I got my first job, right? So I had, from Christmases, I think I was like aware of gaming at that point. Like, I was watching Game Explain, at least. I was watching the Smash Bros. Discussions for the Wii U. So I was like, Nintendo games are good. I want Nintendo games for birthdays and the holidays. So I had most of them. I had Kirby and the Canvas Curse for the Wii U. Oh my god, what a clusterfuck. So I did have Luigi's Mansion 2 Dark Moon for the 3DS. I played like a few hours of it. I will admit, as a video game journalist, I don't like video games.
Of course.
So I will often play them for about like 4 hours. I'll pay full price for a video game, right? Or someone will give it to me. I play it for 4 hours. And then I'll be like, yeah, it was fun. And then I'll go bake something. I'll make some cookies. And I will say, I'm pretty sure this effect happened with Luigi's Mansion 2 Dark Moon. It was on the 3DS. I remember it would cramp my little hands. I really enjoyed it. I think there are a few interesting elements that add to it, and it really come out in Luigi's Mansion 3. The different elements that you're using, despite that you actually use that in the first Luigi's Mansion, right? But there's like different types of mansions, if I remember correctly. But I think Polterpup is really the takeaway from this. If I can say anything and I know is true, because I don't want to just like throw it to the back of my head, say something out of my ass.
I do it all the time.
Polterpup is great. He's animated fantastically. He's such a interesting. Well, actually, you know what? They might have ripped Nightmare Before Christmas on this one. The little fucking dog with the pumpkin boy.
I can't remember his name.
His name's not Jack. That's the main guy's name.
Yeah.
What's his name? But you know what I'm talking about? He's got big floppy ears.
I know exactly what you're talking
Adorable.
about.
But it's sort of a similar idea to Polterpup. I mean, I'm not going to say that I, Tim Burton copyrighted the idea of bringing back like spectral versions of animals.
Yeah, of course.
I'm saying that there was definitely an influence there that cannot be denied. Overall, good game. I like Next Level. They do really cool Mario spin-offs. Let them make the wrestling game, the Mario wrestling game from
awesome.
The GameCube. Bring it back. It's sick. There's like preview footage and like Yoshi drops an RKO on Wario. It's absolutely outstanding. Anyways, disregard that. Luigi's Mansion 2. I enjoyed it, not as much as the first, not as much as the third. We haven't gotten to that yet. But it's like a solid third. It's not a bad game. I will say it's not a bad game.
Also as a games insider, I have to say, as somebody who hasn't played it, I think the game is pretty good, even though I've never played it. But sure, why not?
Last thing I want to mention on this is I think with the 3DS being like a fully mobile handheld, right? Mm-hmm. There was still that unique pressure that we kind of lapse now with the Switch being classified as a home console, with missions being designed for the go. Now you still have then like things like Mario Odyssey where you can put in sleep mode and then like get a couple moons and there's nothing as big as a star going to kick you back out to the
Yeah.
main lobby. But I think the 3DS was the last time you had a mainstream console that was being developed for as a handheld. So a lot of the mobile additions or sequels to games that we got focused on a mission-like structure. Games that are even like reformatted to be fully mobile focused may make them simpler, like Hey Pikmin. I know a lot of people were disappointed with like Luigi's New Island. I think maybe that was changed in some way. These games were formatted to the handheld, and one of the biggest distinctions of Luigi Mansion 2 is that short, like minute bursts of levels
Yeah.
and missions, and you're constantly getting pulled back out of them. There's no continuity there. I think it makes it interesting. I think it makes it stand out. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think that's actually a good point you bring up because that is something we're kind of losing a little bit with the Switch from earlier Nintendo like handhelds, is that kind of bite-sized structure of game delivery. And like it could be argued whether this is a good or a bad thing, but it is definitely a distinction in aesthetic in terms of just how a game is being delivered. I mean, even Mario Odyssey, it's like, yeah, they do want to give you more options to jump into and jump out, but it's still very much a big open area Mario game. Whereas I feel like something like Mario 3D World is more, lends itself more to the handheld thing because of, oh, you jump into a mission, you beat it pretty quickly, and you jump back out.
Yeah.
Than something like Mario Odyssey or Breath of the Wild. And I mean, obviously Breath of the Wild has, you can save whenever, wherever you are, and it has shrines, which are kind of like, oh, well, you jump into a shrine, you beat it, and then, so it does kind of still lend itself, but it's almost like the games now have taken the quick bite-size elements of the older handheld stuff, and then the big, experiences of the home console stuff and combine them, or at least some of their flagship games. And that's interesting, at least from a game design perspective. To me, that's very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think just to keep you on track, Mario 3D Land was on the 3DS. Mario 3D World was for the Wii U because it's bigger.
Yeah. Oh,
Get it?
yeah. Yeah, that's Nintendo knew what
Yeah,
they're on top of it all.
I just want to keep you track. But yeah, I think elaborating on that too a little bit more. It was like the last console that really provided, like, you had to make compromises, right? It wasn't the full breadth of what you had. Not saying Nintendo's consoles are necessarily usually the cutting edge of technology.
Yeah.
They're very much not. A lot of Switch games run at like 540p. But what I'm saying is it was the last one where there was a different SKU and you were instead purposely choosing to work on the less...
Yeah.
Not the lesser SKU, because that's still the Switch, but like the less S. You know what I'm saying? It was the weakest one. And you're purposely choosing and you had to make compromises, but I think it made you a little bit more innovative, alongside the fact that you had dual screens having an active touchscreen alongside not one that we're trying to play on the big screen where it has to be optional. I think Luigi's Mansion 3, I gotta be honest, I don't remember how it uses the touchscreen. I don't know anything besides the mission structure, but I will say that it represents a cool sector of gaming that I don't know if we'll ever get again, besides like games designed for phone, but nothing for like a dedicated handheld game console like that again.
And we all know how mobile design tends to make games less game and more casino.
I love the original Angry Birds. Subway Surfers, Flappy Bird. Hell
I mean,
yeah, bro.
the origins of mobile gaming is great, but that's a topic for another time.
Balloons Tower Defense. Do you remember? Wait, I'm sorry.
No,
Do you
you're
remember when the Flappy Bird guy said he had to take it down
Oh, yeah.
because he was getting too stressed, but he was making like $50,000 a day
That's a classic
from ads? Oh my god, I was in woodshop class when that happened, and I hadn't downloaded Flappy Bird yet, and oh, I was so jealous. Anyways, sorry.
No, that's hilarious.
Third Luigi's Mansion.
Well, I was just gonna say we're gonna switch over and talk about Luigi's Mansion 3 that released for the Switch, because that's a clever segue. That came out in 2019. This is the Luigi's Mansion that I have played from beginning to end. Once again, developed by Next Level Games, once again proving themselves. That is an 86 on Metacritic, once again, showing that they are still good developers. This one was a massive success from critical and financial standpoint. I checked, it's past 10 million sales. So I think it's safe to say Luigi's Mansion is no longer a niche Nintendo franchise. I think it's safe to say it's kind of made it big. And maybe that's the Switch effect, maybe it isn't, but I was very happy to see that because I honestly think this is one of the very best Switch games, and it is one of the best Nintendo games featuring Luigi. What was your experience with it on the Switch before I go too far into my own? You just talked a lot about the kind of delivery of the DS, but how does that compare with Luigi's Mansion 3?
or I had gotten my wisdom teeth taken out. It was November of 2019. Is that when this came out?
Yes.
Sorry, 2019, right?
Mhm.
It's November 2019. I was home from school. I got my wisdom teeth ripped out by a dentist in Trumbull, Connecticut. I was taken back home. I was on some type of not methamphetamine. What is it? What is
Oh,
where's the you know what I'm talking about? It's I was on whatchamacallit. They give me the one that you I was on Oxycontin.
yeah. I'm
They
sorry.
give me Oxycontin.
You said meth, and that got me.
I
The
was on
dentist
Oxycontin,
is
right?
just
They gave
giving
me
meth to people.
they gave me Oxycontin. They gave me a big bottle, and at first I refused to take it because I'm like, I'm gonna get addicted. Then it really hurt, so I did start taking it. And I bought 2 Switch games, and my ma got me some pumpkin ice cream,
Ooh.
some local pumpkin ice cream. It was great. I bought 2 Switch games. I bought Luigi's Mansion 3, and I bought Link's Awakening. I played like 15 minutes of Link's Awakening, played all of Telltale Batman Season 2, and then played most of Luigi's Mansion 3 during that long weekend. And I will say, this is an amazing title. It is one of the most beautiful games I've seen. The amount of detail is absolutely stunning. You have these AAA games where they have immense detail, but none of them stick out because they don't have the same art style.
Mhm.
The fact that Luigi has this big, giant-ass, bulbous nose, but then you can actually see the little stitches in his hat fabric, it's astounding, Herb. Herb, tell me, as someone coming to this franchise for the first time, what was your first impression of it like? What motivated you to pick up Luigi's Mansion 3?
So I had heard a lot about Luigi's Mansion over the years. The Switch was kind of my coming back to Nintendo console. I didn't play anything on the Wii U. I didn't own a GameCube. I would only play it at friends' houses. And my brother had a 64. The last Nintendo console that I had at my house was an SNES, believe it or not. Everything. Oh well, we had a DS as well. One of my siblings did, and we would kind of share it. But other than that, I only played stuff. Oh, we had a Wii as well. Gosh, I forgot the Wii was a Nintendo console.
Of course you had a Wii. Everyone had a Wii.
Even with the Wii, I didn't play a lot of Nintendo classics on it, like Galaxy. My family only had like the sports games and the classic casual ass Wii games. So when I got the Switch, I was kind of excited to just jump back into like Nintendo first party in a real way. And one of the games that I've always heard and kind of wanted to try was Luigi's Mansion, because the idea of not a horror Nintendo game, but a darker, kind of scarier, goofy Nintendo game, I was like, I like that. And as soon as it dropped, everyone was saying how good it was, and I was like, all right, this is a Nintendo game, so 1, the price is never dropping. 2, it's probably good. And 3, yeah, I'm going to buy it because the price is never dropping. So I bought it and never looked back. And I think it took me 13 hours to beat. I loved pretty much every second of it.
What was your favorite boss?
Not King Boo. There was one.
I like the pirate guy. I like when he goes, ah. He's
Wasn't there one
Yeah, it's
who was
good.
a piano?
Yes, there was a maestro. There was a maestro.
Yeah, that one stuck out to me. I really like that one.
That's fun. You get to use the plunger rope.
Well, so that's what I wanted to talk about, though, is the idea you mentioned earlier about a franchise that uses a vacuum as its main, weapon, is so unique, specific to this franchise, and not just like there's nothing like Luigi's Mansion in gaming. It's not a point-and-click adventure game. It's not a
It feels like one though
side-scroller.
sometimes. It does feel like a point-and-click adventure game sometimes.
So you can see the inspiration. It's why I point that out, because there is inspiration from point-and-click. There's inspiration from puzzle games in 3D and all these other things.
Beat 'em ups.
Beat 'em ups. There's all this stuff kind of meshed together in a way that's wholly original and totally unique. Something I want to stress. The art style of this game is fantastic. The ability of these designers and animators and artists to not just get the art style, but have the detail there, shows once again something that I want to beat home as a Halo fan. You can have detail and a nice, simple art style. Those are not mutually exclusive. For some reason, people think if you want detail, it has to look like Michael Bay shit. It's like, no, you can do both. It's just all about having the right details.
Yeah.
And I think Luigi's Mansion 3, and once again, I want to repeat, I think it's the best looking game on the Switch.
Sometimes it almost looks too good to touch it. Like you feel bad. Like you're touching like a porcelain doll. And you're like, oh my God, I'm going to slip on this. And you're going to break it.
I don't want to... Exactly, I don't want to break it. It's so expressive and it's so detailed and so colorful, but also manages to have that kind of spooky atmosphere that is befitting of a game about ghosts and ghouls and what have you.
I think the cool thing, sort of like how we were talking about the structure of the games before, well, more like I was babbling about it and you were egging me on, But what I was saying is that they do this cool hybrid. But this was something you brought up. The hybrid of the home console and the handheld is, I think, mentally separating the floors is a genius idea in terms of making instead of levels. So you're sort of encased in. It's kind of interesting because it's a little bit foretelling of Nintendo's giant strategies. They're giving you these big explorable things. So, like, let's say Mario Odyssey, you're separated by a world, but you got all these tasks in a world to do. And then it's like a big deal when you move on to the next world. Luigi's Mansion 3, you have these different floors. So it's still giving you the ability to, like, you can burst through this in a big way, or in between different missions you're taking on, or even floors, you can take a break before a new boss, pause it, put it down. I think it's, and then even like Breath of the Wild, it's a huge console game you can play, but otherwise there's still little areas they can do, and there's little side missions where you can just hop in and do a few temples. I think it's just an overall design strategy they had that's working for this generation, and it's really visible here in Luigi's Mansion 3.
Yeah, and I want to mention something. I actually wasn't 100% sure of this a second ago, but I believe Next Level Games was actually bought by Nintendo shortly after.
Yeah, they got absolved.
To me, it's awesome because one, those guys are great. Nintendo, first of all, never buys studios. I think it's really cool for Next Level that they're just officially in there now as a Nintendo studio, and hopefully that means like they'll get more projects, because I do think Nintendo has a problem right now with some of their outsourcing, specifically with their sports games, where I feel like they're not giving us the full package at launch. Like I mean, Mario Golf is a recent example of this, but I did Mario Tennis Aces and I felt like, oh, it's good, but it felt lacking to me for a Nintendo product. Not to say Next Level Games needs to do all the sports games, but I do hope to see them do more games, because I'll tell you, you don't have to have a long game for it to be amazing. And I think Luigi's Mansion 3 is a perfect example of exactly this almost scientific understanding of how long this type of game needs to be, how long each level needs to be, how long you need to have between the bosses. I guess what I'm trying to say is the pacing in this game is spectacular. And it's really so important in gaming to get pacing right, because, I mean, I know this about you, but even for me, sometimes with games, it's like, if you're not keeping my attention, I'm gonna drop this shit.
Of course. I think you're hitting on something here with the developers of Next Level Games, is that they are sort of one of the last bastions in Nintendo of allowing each game to have a little bit of spark, like they sometimes did. This might just be nostalgia talking, but I feel like they're almost a little bit more individualistic and not so buttoned up. Maybe a generation or two ago, and by that I mean like 3 generations ago, because I mean like Wii and GameCube before. Next Level might be the last bastion. I mean, they are the ones who made the Mario Strikers games, some of the most games that have pushed the Mario brand artistically into something that it didn't want to be, just making it like all sorts of new shapes and colors and ideas being presented. And they also did the amazing Punch Out remake for the Wii. I think the one black spot on them is Metroid Prime Federation Force, but I actually heard that wasn't that bad. It just looks bland. But I think this is a game, and maybe this is why we think this stands out amongst the other Switch games, that they go the extra mile, or they at least have that independent personality where they have things they focus on. I also think it's worth noting that they are a Canadian studio. I mean, maybe there is more of a focus here in the West on, we like tremendous graphics. I don't know if maybe it's a divide there too, or at least a work sort of mental division. I don't know, but it's an interesting thing to talk about.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's definitely something that's more of a Western focus in terms of graphical presentation. Not to slight Japanese video games,
fucking Square
but
Enix.
there's a reason almost all PlayStation's developers are Western. I don't know. They just seem to really like the big graphics.
That's why they're bombing in Japan right now, which I just learned about today. I'm a terrible games journalist. I didn't know the PS5 was a bomb.
Yeah. Well, it's not that it's a bomb. It's just the Japanese console market's just kind of dying out. The Switch kind of just.
It's all Switch. The Switch just took it all.
Well, the Switch is like, it's like it read what the Japanese market wanted. Like the mind of the Japanese market was like, boom, here you go. And then everybody was like, yep, this is what we want. Goodbye, everything else.
Did you know Next Level Games did Captain America Super Soldier for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3?
No, but that makes sense because that game's a hidden gem.
I've never heard of that before. Anyway, sorry, what were you saying?
I never beat it. I only played a few levels at my brother's, but I liked what I played. But anyways, back to the topic. We can actually kind of wrap up now. Luigi's Mansion 3 really, to me, was a game that kind of just reminded me what Nintendo's capable of delivering in terms of franchise sequels. Whereas I feel I'm a huge Breath of the Wild fan, but it obviously there's a lot of people who felt that they were kind of spurred by it. Longtime Zelda fans felt spurred by it. And then, as I mentioned before with those sports games, we haven't seen a new Mario Kart game in a while. I think games like Odyssey and games like Luigi's Mansion 3 kind of hit exactly at the right time for the other fans who felt that they've gone a long, long time between getting what they want and waiting 12 years for a sequel to the first Luigi's Mansion and then another 6 years for Luigi's Mansion 3. I kind of hope that it doesn't even have to be Luigi's Mansion. Call it make like Luigi's, not Island, that's already been made, but a new Luigi game from Next Level Games. I hope we get one sooner than another 6 years, I guess is what I'm getting at. You have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just calling back to that earlier thing again. I think it's interesting because it's how many times can they do it and have it still be unique. I wonder if there's anyone where the third game was sort of wearing off. It was like when new Pokemon Snap came out, right? I was playing this game and I was like, man, I really have a fascination with the first one because of how different it is. And then playing new Pokemon Snap, it all just felt kind of hollow. Not necessarily a hardcore nostalgic person in some ways. So I think there is a uniqueness to this game that I worry about if they were to do another one or another way. I don't know what other concept they would come across. I think that's what takes this series a long time and something that Nintendo is sometimes good about. Have some things they iterate on super hard, but usually there is a new gameplay approach before you come across, like we didn't mention Luigi. Luigi's fucking weird, and he's in this game. He is another dimension to the game that isn't just additional power up, or well, I don't know, kind of, but it's like a new gameplay element. I think that's something that's integral to them, and I don't know. I think if they were to keep hammering on this, it would make it less special. So I'm not sure. I agree with you in some ways that I love and enjoy these games, but I worry that even like a Luigi's Mansion 4, it just sort of like goes back and like disheartens the uniqueness of each individual one. Like I wish there was only 2 Luigi's Mansion games. Does that make sense? I wish we were just now getting Luigi's Mansion 2 and it was actually Luigi's Mansion 3. Like that would be incredible. It's like I don't know. It's that scent in like a bottle that you captured. You know, like you go to the beach, you take a big fucking jar, and you capture the sea air. And the first time you unscrew that, you're gonna be like, "Oh my god, that's a mollusk," and you're like, "This is beautiful. I love this." But then, like each time you unscrew that jar, there's less and less air in the total volume, and it just it lowers the intensity. And I don't want that to happen to this series, but I do enjoy it.
I completely agree with you that it is very important that you have an idea that like there's a reason the game is being made. Like Mario Odyssey, it's the hat. They're like, we have this hat idea. The whole game is now going to be built around this. It's completely new. We haven't done this in Mario before. Luigi's Mansion 3, you have Luigi, you have a new level structure, you have a bunch of things going on. I think what I do worry about, and this is with any sequel, is that, and obviously money is a motivating factor to make a video game sequel, but I prefer it like, yeah, obviously they want to make the money, but you can still have artists who are like, we have a new idea, a new way, something to explore. Because what sometimes happens is you wait a while and then you get Incredibles 2, where the director insisted.
Yeah, did people not like Incredibles 2?
Well, give me a second, I'll explain.
Okay, sorry.
The director insisted that he had this fantastic idea. Like, he was not going to make Incredibles 2 unless he had like a game-changing idea. For years he insisted this. And then he just makes like it's fine.
Yeah, okay, I get it.
Like,
yeah, it was all right. I know.
It doesn't really do anything new. It doesn't really it doesn't feel like to me, it justified its existence, other than it's going to make $1 billion at the box office, which it did.
Yeah.
And this is how I feel about, obviously, like any artist. You don't want that album to come out and it to feel like they're just going through the motions again. They're like just pooping out another album. Even if it's not bad, it's just like, you want people to take the next step, you know, to delight you in ways you didn't even know you could be delighted. And that's something that I think Nintendo's best games do, is you jump into a familiar place and you're like, I've been here before, but something's different. And that different thing is, maybe it's a pool, maybe it's a slide instead of stairs. It's different enough and it changes the very foundation of this place you've been to before. And that's something that I would hope to see. And I'm going to say when, because this game sold 10 million copies. They're going to come back to Luigi's Mansion. I just hope that Next Level Games really does take it to the next level.
Beautiful. Yeah, one last thing to say is that I just think a cool thing about video games, right? And what this game reminds me of is games where it's just so... if you put them in like a top 5 list or like a 5 games of each division, it would almost feel like a different genre. That's how unique they are. It's games like fucking like Nobi Nobi Boy, or like you have something like Pac-Man 2: The New Adventures, and then you have like Luigi's Mansion, Call of Duty Black Ops, and what else is on the list? Got fucking like Pez English Soccer Simulator 16. And it's just like these are all video games, but they're all different kinds, and they stand apart in some way where it's interesting to have them on a list next to each other. You don't have like Uncharted next to Gears of War next to Boba. It's and on those games stand by, but they're not truly unique in a way, right?
Yeah, I
It's
know
almost
exactly
like
what you're saying.
they're not something where it's like there is nothing to put this next to. I think Luigi's Mansion occupies that space, and it's one that I don't want to see it lose or expand.
Well, very well said.
Thank you.
And I do want to say, I might cut this out, but I just want to add an addendum, kind of more discussion focus. What you were saying though about when you put these games next to each other, like the beauty of video games, where you have Dead Cells, you can have Halo 3, and then you can have freaking Lawnmower Simulator.
Yeah.
So these aren't just different genres, different ways of telling a story or not having a story at all, different visual experiences, different interactive experiences, different tones, different atmospheres. This isn't just the difference between, say, an action movie and a rom-com. This is like the difference between a movie and a completely different medium, all contained within the same medium. And like, I remember reading a game developer say, I can't remember who it was, but he was talking about how when people talk about game development, the way you need to think of it is not, oh, you jump in and then it's just like a movie where you have your cameras and you have your audio. It's like, no, every game you have to essentially invent new cameras, invent new audio equipment, invent like everything. All of it has to be created, all of it has to be redone, remade. It's like you're creating a whole new medium every time. And there's something kind of scary, but also like magical about that. I don't know. It's what makes gaming to me so special is that you're not just getting not even down to say the genres or the types of games, but it's almost like each new game is its own like isolated country, its own medium. And it's like, yeah, sometimes games are just derivative of another game. But sometimes a game comes out and you're like, oh shit, this is different. Like this isn't like any game I played before. This isn't like a movie I've seen. This is just its own thing. And I don't know, I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And sometimes it's about a little green man with a vacuum.
Well said. But yeah, thank you, Matt Borges, for joining me today.
Welcome. Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
I'm really happy to be able to do a different type of content on my channel. And God bless you and God bless America.
God bless America.